morning and welcome to this episode of our podcast. And it is your journey from underdog to superhero. And it's been a crazy week for me. I've taken some big moves in my business to get it where I want it to be, and it is very uncomfortable. And that's all part of the growth, is when you start to be able to take risks and do things that are uncomfortable to really get where you want to be. So let me kind of recap where I came from and where I'm going. So we'll start in the beginning. So when I moved here from England when I was 14 years old, it was a very difficult move. And I've said that. It was socially a difficult move, but it was also academically a very difficult move. Just did not understand how school worked or where to go or what to do. I was entering high school at the time, and I had no idea about the rules. We never had homework in England. It was really strange that we didn't have homework, but we never had homework up until freshman year. And so everything was totally different. The curriculums were different. What they were teaching was different. We were way ahead on some things. We were way behind on other things. They didn't teach American history in Europe because they didn't think Americans had history. It was only a couple hundred years, and they're like, that's nonsense, you know? And so there's so many things I didn't know, and I didn't understand how things worked or anything. So when I first came to America, I really struggled in school. I didn't understand homework. The teacher would call it assignments, and I thought that was super agents. Should you choose this mission? I had no idea. I was completely lost. And so it took a good year for me to go from the very bottom to where I was actually felt comfortable. I wasn't always lost, and I wasn't overwhelmed by just not knowing what was going on. And understanding, you know, and even though it's the same language, the language is different enough that it was just so different. But what happened was that I realized that I was ahead in certain subjects. I was ahead. And so what they was able to do was to basically test out of some classes, and I was able to graduate at the end of my junior year with all the advanced classes, college level classes that they offered at the time. Just because the education system was so different, and my strongest lanes were art and math. And my sister had gone ahead as a artist, and she got a degree in, like a 2-year degree in graphic design. And she went to work for agencies, but I saw she was really struggling, and it wasn't, that starving artist type thing. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm really good at math, I understand math. I would not call it good at, but I understood math. Math made sense to me. So I decided to become a math major, and it was really interesting because the first, 2 years of being a math major, the kids around me and the classes we were in were all like engineering, part of their prerequisites, and then like pre-med had to have advanced math, and then like chemistry majors and other like STEM programs had this advanced math like Calc 3, differential equations, things like that. And then I started to get into the more advanced classes that were only people that were actually taking math. And I looked around me and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are not my people. I was like really outgoing. My dad was in sales. I always thought, well, at some point in time, I'm going to be in sales. I just kind of naturally like that kind of fit who I was. And so I looked around at all the colleges and all the degrees, and I'm like, okay, marketing is my degree. These are my people. It's that nice combination between, creativity, being, really, my artistic creative background combined with, sales, advertising, how to make money, things like that. So it just made a lot of sense for me to be in marketing. And it just, everything about it was like, oh, I like this. I like this. I like this. I can see some point in time, having my own business. I can see doing what I'm doing now. And it really, the part that really appealed to me was the ability to grow companies, to grow product lines, to grow companies, to grow, provide that level of growth. And so that fit me. And the personalities of the people in marketing, I'm like, man, these are my people. So I switched to marketing. When I graduated, I couldn't get a job. And when I was in high school, I was working in hotels. And so I ended up getting a job for the first 2.5 years in a hotel, managing, the whole front office of a hotel. I had like 56 employees. And the one thing that I was always a problem solver. My whole life, I've been a problem solver. That's why I gravitate to this program, and it just makes sense to me, is to solve problems. But, when I first started in college, working the front desk, there was just always chaos, like absolute chaos, as far as, rooms being available, people being upset, people being mad. So I developed all these systems to like minimize the chaos. And everything that I would anticipate what things are going to happen. And then I would develop like these little programs, these little systems to you can't always minimize chaos, but you can control it in some way. So I would develop these different ways to deal with large groups coming in that all want to be on the same floor and things like that. And I'd start to problem solve. And I learned really good tactical skills of dealing with upset people, because you always have upset people in the hotel business. Someone before them left an odor in the room, or and then you attract a certain level of crazy where people have these expectations that aren't realistic. And back then people smoked, and even in the non-smoking rooms, people smoked. And so, and then you would overbook, and you'd have to walk people to other hotels, and there'd just be all this like chaos and drama. And I would do everything I could to minimize that, and be able to, learn how to calm people down when they're just really upset. Like, just agree and listen, don't argue, don't be defensive, things like that. So I garnered some fantastic skills. Excuse me. But and so I went into the hotel business, and that was just not my scene. I mean, it just really, and it was the first job I ever got fired from. It was like, and it was very interesting, and I'm not going to go into it, but it was a very, very strange situation. And basically, it was a completely inappropriate situation. Now it would be considered, like you could probably sue on it now, but it was totally inappropriate. It was totally crossed all the lines, and it was just something that I did not disclose to my boss, and she just then lost all faith and trust in me because I didn't disclose something to her that was my personal private life. It had nothing to do with my job. And so she ended up firing me. And it was really an interesting time in my life, because then I tried a couple of other things that didn't fit. And then finally, I found a job where they were looking for a sales admin. And I'm like, I will take the sales admin job if I can get that job done in half the time. The other half of the time I can do marketing for you. And because I had to create my own marketing job, because there were no marketing jobs at the time. So this is back late 80s, sorry, to put in reference. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s. I started there in 1991. And I said, I will develop this job. So quickly they saw what I could do with marketing. And so then they hired somebody in to do the sales admin job. And then I moved to 100% marketing. And for them, I did everything. I did all types of, direct mail, ads, you name it. Back in the day, the marketing that existed, I did the marketing. And I went back to grad school during this job. And in one of the presentations during grad school, someone started talking about the internet, like the internet was coming. It was the first time I'd ever heard about the internet. And so I convinced my boss, like, hey, we need to be on the forefront of this, get me the type of computer that we could, develop a website on, and help me to, let me help you to be the first. So I built the first website and front page. And then I built their first e-commerce system. And then I realized that, then I started doing SEO. And I realized that this is it, at the time. So this was a B2B company, and we were in the plastics industry. We were a mold shop. So we had a foundry, and we had a lot of CNC machines, a lot of equipment, but we were also in the plastics industry, and I was very heavily involved in the plastics industry. So I would, be on committees. I'd be giving white papers. I'd give me presentations at, trade shows, lots of trade shows, things like that. And so, and then at the time, for manufacturing companies, the only way you found manufacturing companies prior to the internet was these big books called Thomas Register. And you would go in and you would look in these big books, and massive books, like each one was like 10 pounds. It was ridiculous. And you'd have this whole shelf of books, A to Z, and you would go in and you would search. It'd be like the phone book for industrial. Anyway, I could see right away that that's going to be completely gone, obscure, and that people are going to search for what they're looking for on the internet, and they're going to find it. So just as the internet was coming out, just as Google was getting its legs, I started figuring out SEO, and then just really realized that that's the lane. That's where the future is going to be. People are going to search for things and find things. So that's where I positioned myself, and I had this amazing boss, absolutely amazing boss. And when I talk about those people that have had the greatest impact on my life, this is somebody, and I'll tell his story in not this episode. It's a really great story, but he said, "You are so good at this. You should really go out and do this." And I'm like, yes, I should. So he allowed me to go down to 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week. And then I, resigned. And what I did was I sent letters out to all the small manufacturing companies in the area. And I said, look, this is what I can do. And this is what I've done for this company. This is the future. This is what's coming. And that most small manufacturing companies have strictly had salespeople. They've never had marketing people. They didn't need marketing people at the time. But this is coming, and, hire me for 8 hours a day, and I will bring this into your company. You don't need a full-time marketing person. You just need a part-time marketing person to